The Marvel executive behind Blade was reportedly fired because, quote, he didn't sound the alarm on film's abysmal direction. It's one of the few things that anyone has actually ever heard Kevin Feige yell at someone, according to Inside Source. In a development which, if true, would be one of the most surprising things to come out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in recent memory, a new report has claimed that the Marvel executive responsible for their Blade reboot has been sacked for intentionally lying to studio boss Kevin Feige about just how truly disastrous the film was shaping up to be. Though word that the Daywalker's next cinematic outing would be anything but quality had been raised over the past year by multiple scoopers, it was brought to more widespread attention courtesy of Variety's Tatiana Siegel, who in her recent Crisis at Marvel expose detailed how, as public criticism mounts, Feige is pulling the plug on scripts and projects that aren't working. Case in point, the Blade reboot, detailed Siegel. With Mahershala Ali signed on for the eponymous role of a vampire, things looked promising for a 2023 release date, but the project has gone through at least 5 writers, 2 directors, and 1 shutdown 6 weeks before production. One person familiar with the script permutation says the story at one point morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. Blade was relegated to the 4th lead, a bizarre idea considering that the studio had 2-time Oscar winner Ali on board. Who's an absolutely fantastic actor, does an absolutely great job as Cottonmouth on Luke Cage. That entire first season went downhill as soon as they killed his character off. Huge mistake killing off your top villain. Just absolutely terrible mistake. But let's continue here. And it was in light of this supposed revelation that independent film reporter Jeff Snyder would make a discovery of his own, speaking to the topic of Blade during the November 1st episode of his and film critic John Roca's The Hot Mike live show. Snyder informed his co-host that while he was unsure if Siegel's description of the film's current state was 100% accurate, he was aware that, quote, the executive who was working on Blade basically tried to obscure what was going to be in this draft from the film's writer, Stacey Osai Kufor. He either tried to intentionally obfuscate what the draft was going to entail. Another source put it as he didn't sound the alarm on the process and what trouble the project was in. To this end, the reporter then divulged, I'm told, that he was fired. Another source said it was a parting of the ways. Snyder noted, I push back against that because I'm like, who leaves Marvel, right? It's the dream job for most geek executives. I don't think a lot of people are leaving on their own accord. My source said, and Marvel didn't comment on anything like this, but they said it's one of the few times that anyone has actually ever heard Kevin Feige yell at someone. That was the quote. We could change that to raised voice, but it was one of the few times that this individual had heard Kevin ever raise his voice. Snyder then asserted, so the executive on Blade, who I'm not going to name, you can maybe figure out who it is no longer with Marvel, and that is confirmed. Snyder then detailed, it was interesting, about that executive. I called Marvel and asked to speak with the executive before going on the air with this story. And the person who answered the phone said he's no longer with the company. And then they were like, oh, wait, actually, he's working somewhere else from a different location. And I was like, that was a weird thing to say. I gave that person a chance to comment, and I just haven't heard back prior to going on here. As to the synopsis of Blade's most recent draft provided by Siegel, Snyder would note that among his sources, there was pushback that it wasn't necessarily going to be 3 women, yet there were drafts where I think that there were strong female characters. You could call them lead characters in a sense, what is a lead and where do we draw the line? But I think in those drafts, Blade was still very much a lead character. I don't think he was relegated to the 4th lead or that focus was on anywhere but Blade. But maybe it was Blade and, 2 strong female characters or whatever it was. He then concludes, so I think that there's, truth to that element, but does that make sense to anybody that that someone would get hired to write a Blade movie and Blade would be the 4th character? I kind of have to go with Michael Starbury on this, especially if he's seen all the drafts right. I don't know which writer he was in the process. I think that they are at number 6 right now. I think they're at 5. I've counted 5 so far. Michael Green is the last one, according to Tatiana Siegel. So I don't know if he was 3, 4, or 5, but yeah, it just seems a little far-fetched and a little outlandish, but I don't know. I don't have Tatiana's sources. So I actually don't think that it is far-fetched. We've seen this play out. Where you get the bait and switch all the time. They just did it in Mandalorian Season 3, where they replaced Din Djarin with Katie Sackhoff's Bo-Katan Kryze. We see this all the time. They gender swap characters all the time. So it's not like it's not unheard of that a female character would be supplanting a male character and taking on their role. I mean, there's a whole moniker called the MCU, which indeed is all about that. That is literally a trope that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has created because of its storytelling. I mean, they just did it with the whole Gaia thing where she becomes like the super scroll and everything in Secret Invasion. She gets everyone's powers and is now like the ultimate power in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They repeatedly do this time and time again. So the idea that Blade would be relegated is not out of the realm of possibility, and is in fact something one would expect, given the way the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been going as of late, rather than that being something that you wouldn't expect. But let me know what you guys think. What do you make of what Jeff Snyder has to say here, and this executive getting fired because didn't warn Kevin Feige about how awful Blade really was?
Subscribe for more.